Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is One Day Today, episode 141. I'm very excited for you to meet our guest today, who you will meet in a second. First off, hello, welcome. We always like to ask questions and have inquiries that really, we were talking to Matthew earlier, in this quest that we're on, in this planet, in this rock we're born in, what power, what ability do you and I have to impact this ever expanding complex world of cultures, of feelings, of thoughts, of beliefs, of people, of animals, of our environment, and like what true ability do you and I have to actually positively impact the environment that we were born into and the one that we live and die in? And like, how much power do we actually have to affect this world and this place and our community? And I think I could answer that with a lot more questions, but I think one thing I've discovered and I'm discovering in my journey and in my quest is that power I have is a moment to moment thing, and is in every moment when I am actually true to me and to myself and remember who I truly am beyond my thoughts and my fears, my feelings, the things that happen to me. The truth is, every moment you and I have an opportunity and a choice to plant seeds of love, to plant seeds of laughter for ourselves and for others. We all have a choice in every moment to to create something that inspires, that empowers, that lifts someone else up, someone else who might be having a hard day or a hard life, or somebody who else who's lost in the depths of their minds, their fears, and their trials and the things that they're facing. And ultimately, we all have days like that. We all have weeks and months and years like that. And there's a we had a guest in the past. I forget what her name was. Right now, her name's escaping me. But the saying "dark night of the soul," and we adapted that after this conversation. That it's a dark night of the mind that leads to the bright day of the soul. And I wholeheartedly believe that's true. It's the obstacles that we face, and this is something that we've 141 episodes in, and every single guest we've had, it has been some version or some experiential journey of their own where they were facing something in their life, and something, you know when it came to reason, when it came to rationale, they had every reason to give up or to just continue down a path of pain and suffering. But despite that, they chose to create something and to focus and to commit to something greater than themselves. And on the other side of that, they not only discovered their purpose, but they discovered their full ability to empower others who are facing what they were facing, in the dark night of their mind. I'm going to invite Matthew here. I think he just got disconnected, but I'm going to surprise curveball him. Let me welcome Matthew. Welcome, Matthew. Good to see you, brother. Good to be with you.
Right back at you as always. I missed the last half of what you were saying because my
It was
internet
the
was
best part. You missed all of
there.
it. This
Yeah, like
episode is ruined.
it's the end of the world as we know it. Um, I'll just kind of riff on what you started with, which is we all have a choice,
Mhm.
and that we've talked about this multiple times on the show, and I might have even told part of this story on the show. Um, but the the power of believing that everything is a choice, I feel like is absolutely mind blowingly world changing. Um, Wayne Dryer said, change the way you look at things and the world changes. And this is one of those perspective shifts that's like when I started looking at the world and recognizing that everything is a choice, how I feel, how I act, what I say, what I do, all of it, even breathing, like literally, even breathing is a choice. My life fundamentally changed.
Mhm.
And I realized this in this really extreme moment of like despair and desperation, and really like truly considering exiting this world. Like I was on my farm up in Canada and had found this like slash pile, which is it was way back in the property. And a slash pile is these piles of just like root balls and things that loggers leave when they come and clear cut an area. And I never been back there before. I don't think anyone else on the property knew that slash pile even existed. Um, and I'm just standing beside it, and I was just really angry and scared and depressed, and like I saw no hope. And the only thing that I had really loved any time in the recent past, being on that farm, like I thought that it might be taken away from me. I thought I might be getting kicked off and I have to leave. And so I was done. And I'm standing there looking at the slash pile, and I'm realizing that like no one would find me here. And as I'm thinking this, I realize my hand is in my pocket and it's holding my box knife. And I don't even remember like picking up my box knife. I don't remember putting it in my pocket. I have no earthly idea like how I ended up with it there. But I just remember like looking, like taking it out of my pocket, opening it up, looking at it and going, I could leave. Like I could exit right now. All this would be over with. I wouldn't have to worry about anything anymore, and it'd be so easy. And the longer I stood there looking at it, the more scared of actually exiting I got. And I realized that I was too scared to actually end things. I was too scared to kill myself. And in that moment, there was this aha of like, oh, okay, well, I can do this. But if I'm not going to, then I might as well live, like really truly live. And I started realizing all of the things I hadn't been doing that I wanted to do, but hadn't been because either I was scared of them, I thought that people wouldn't accept it, I thought people wouldn't accept me, it was against the rules, like just like all of these things that I had been not doing that felt truly me. And I realized I wasn't aligned. I wasn't being authentic. I wasn't being real, like you were talking about earlier. And that realization was this, oh my God, this is why I'm actually depressed. Like, this is why I'm angry. This is why I'm frustrated because I'm not being real.
Mm.
And I have a choice. Like, I don't have to follow all the conventions of society. I don't have to be what my parents think that I'm supposed to be, or what my school taught me I'm supposed to be, or what movies tell me you're supposed to have. Like, what I don't have to do what movies tell me I'm supposed to do. Like, I don't have to do any of those things.
Right.
And I don't have to avoid doing all the things that I want to do because everyone else is expecting me to do what they think I should be doing.
Right.
I can just be me. And I made a commitment to myself right then and there that like if okay, I'm not gonna kill myself, so I'm gonna fucking live. Like I'm gonna enjoy my life. I'm gonna be real. And I made that choice. And what I see is there's so many people who have not consciously made the choice to live. And so they're subconsciously choosing things that are slowly killing themselves. Like they're too scared to do it quickly, and they're not even conscious that they have to make this choice, that they're capable of making this choice of to live or die. And so they don't really want to be here. Like they don't want to live this life that they think that they're supposed to live. And so they're just subconsciously sabotaging themselves and slowly dying instead of really living.
It's so powerful, and it sounds like what you that day what you distinguished for yourself. Something that you probably knew intellectually before that moment, but it was like, huh, I can live by chance or I can live by choice. And you like
Yeah.
jumped into that choice camp. You're like,
Yeah.
because I feel like what you were saying is like, it's like we could live our lives by chance and just do what culture and society and our parents and school and what we think we need to do for others, because the pressures of we'll say conventional wisdom, which are more just agreement, the four agreements are more just agreements of old that we don't even question just because we're told this is what people have always done, so this is what I have to do, and this is just the way life is. But you just sounds like you firmly just placed yourself into the I'm living and I'm living by choice.
Yeah. Yeah, and the crazy thing is, like, ever since I made that choice, I've come back around multiple times into that place of despair,
Mm. Oh yeah.
and it's just been this slow unpeeling of all of the things that I believe that I need to do so that I can actually do what I want to do or be what I want to be.
Yeah.
Like every time I start to get depressed and I recognize that I'm getting depressed, it's like, oh wait, okay, step back. How am I not being authentic?
Yeah.
Like what belief am I following?
Hmm.
What fear am I letting control me that is taking me away from authenticity?
Right. What is there to release? What past am I carrying right now as
Yeah,
if it's still here right now?
yeah,
And I
exactly.
think and I think it's a powerful place to be, and it's and I think it's a great observation and point is it's not a one and done thing. As soon as you choose, that's when it's like as soon as you choose anything, the world or universe presents the opposite. So like as soon as I commit to peace, that's when I see all the war and see all the anger and see the frustration. So it's like that's when the work begins. But the fact that you chose it and you choose it and you continue to choose it every day, that's where the work is, and that's
Yeah,
why this we've had so many amazing stories on this stage, and I think it's a good time to bring Angela in. But it's people who are up to amazing things in the world, people who are leaders in their communities, creative leaders, spiritual leaders. Have, I assert have made that same choice.
absolutely. And I
And
like I said, this is great time. So Angela, welcome to the stage. How's it going
welcome,
today?
Angela.
It is amazing. I am so grateful to be here with both of you guys, and thank you for having me on your podcast today.
Absolutely,
Our
happy to have you.
pleasure.
I
Well,
like just real quick, like we've met recently, and I just wanted to say, like, I have enjoyed every single conversation we've had. Like, it's been inspiring and a level of depth that I very much aspire to in every moment. So, just thank
Mm.
you for that.
Thank
And
you.
I just want to like welcome you to the stage and throw you out there and just let you share for a little bit. And if you want, you can talk. You can kind of follow on what we've been talking about, or if you just want to go and do your own thing, go for it. But
All right. Perfect. Well, I'm Angela Fitz, and I am here on the big island of Hawaii. And I too am been in a lot of those places that you were speaking about. I've had so many dark nights of the soul, too many to actually mention here, but that's what brought me to this place in my life. I have now gotten to a place where I can actually look back at those dark nights of the soul and know that those are the things that broke me wide open every single time I went through a period and a stage in my life that was considered a dark night of the soul. It on the other side was complete rebirth. So the destruction, the death of a lot of ego deaths, on and on and on. The many things, the many aspects, and the many things that you experience while you're going through a dark night of the soul. And for your listeners who are not really familiar with that term or um, don't really know what we might be talking about, it's basically when you're going through a very expansive period in your life where you come to the conclusion, you're kind of like culminating all of the traumas and all of your heavier experiences and the detachment from yourself, not being fully connected with your mind, your body, your spirit, and just kind of living life haphazardly. And so many things of your dark night soul are a result of the direct experiences that you went through in your childhood, in your teenage years, in your young adult, anytime. So it could be different. That story and that narrative is different for so many people across the board. But that's basically what it is just the culmination of all of those really heavy times and sifting through of how you can come back to yourself, how you can come back to find your power within, which is the question that was presented to me when you all asked me to come onto your show, to give you just like one statement. And that statement would be is your power comes from within. My personal journey started as a highly sensitive person, HSP, for the sake of, I don't really like labels, but for the sake of giving some sort of understanding to what we're speaking. Some people relate to it as an empathic person, empaths, HSPs, highly sensitive people. And me, I have gifts of being highly empathetic and highly sensitive to energy. And so I have a high level of intuition as well. And as a small child, I went through lots of trauma, lots of trauma. We'll just leave it at that. Lots of trauma, lots of sexual trauma, domestic violence, being exposed to that. And just, we all have so many narratives and so many stories, being, growing up in a household where there was alcoholism present, so on and so forth. So probably a lot of the similar stories and narratives that follow a lot of your audience, and which is what led me to a lot of my dark nights of soul. But ultimately, all of those experiences have led me here today. I am the creator and the founder of a beautiful organization. It's called The Nurturing Well. And I basically help people find their power within, empower them to get in touch with their inner power. But not only that, really healing the traumas and healing the things that we all go through our nervous system, through a like treasure trust of modalities, using the breath, using meditation, using mindfulness practices, and using movement in the body and yoga and somatic therapies to really get to the root and the crux of what happens for us when we've experienced a lot of trauma in our life. And so that is my role, and that's how I show up today, and that's what my gift is, to give back. And I do this work through deep compassion and empathy. Since I am an empath, I have taken that empathic gift and infused it with a compassionate way of giving back into nurturing people and creating safe containers to allow people to feel safe in their body, so they can then start to do the work of unfolding and unraveling the trauma, so they can feel safe enough to literally start to release it out of the body. So that's pretty much what I do in a nutshell, and what I have found to be my purpose. And I feel like I feel so joyous doing it. I feel like I finally reached this place in my life where it's like, okay, everything is starting to come together. Everything is kind of starting to make sense here. This is why, this journey was this, and why I went down that path, and why I was born into the parents that I was born into, and why I had all these different experiences in my life to actually prepare me to take center stage, so to speak, to start helping people recover and heal, just like I found that healing. I also suffered from a lot of suicidal ideations as a younger person, and I found myself in some completely dark spaces. And I do believe a lot of times we do have that choice to either live life or not. But sometimes it's a little bit more complicated than that. And I think sometimes when we're just buried underneath a lot of the trauma, it's hard to see that we actually do have those choices. It's hard to be stuck in a victim mentality and think that that there are bad things actually happening to us, like the world is happening to us, right? Whereas I try to help people find that voice within, that power within, and stop looking externally in the world for a savior, for a thing, for a person, for a relationship, for a drug, for whatever it is that we look to fill all of these voids. And I try to help people tap into their heart space, into that soft place, doing inner child work, shadow work, like the list goes on. But basically, my main theme and my main goal is really addressing it through compassion, softness, tenderness, and a nurturing space. So that's pretty much why I'm here, and that is what I have to offer. And it can look different. I'm also open to change. I'm open to different doors opening to me. I always have the intention. I live at a very intention life, and I think it's very important to set intentions, to choose, as we were talking about, choosing the life that you want to live by living through your intentions, waking up each day and saying, how is it that I want to feel? How do I want to show up in the world? How can I give back? And I personally feel like I'm fueled. The more I give, the more energy and power I have. It's an interesting dichotomy, but I feel like when we find that passionate space, when we find that heart-centered space, that really fuels you. And then whenever you start to reach out and help other people, you feel so fulfilled by that, because it's like all of the things that led you up to this point, all the hardships, all the dark nights of the soul were not in vain. You can literally see the power in it, and you can see how you have now transmuted, and you've transmuted all that pain, and now you're blossoming into this beautiful vessel of unconditional love, compassion, and empathy to help other people find that within themselves as well. And my main thing, I will always go back to, the power lies within, because we live in a society where there are so many distractions and there are so many energies pulling at us all of the time. And I think a lot of times in childhood, a lot of us were raised in the church, or this really doesn't have anything to do with your religious beliefs or not religious beliefs or your spiritual beliefs. But what it has to do with is that we are programmed and taught to look externally outside of us. And I think that's been a grave mistake. I think that I have found my power within. It's always, my wisdom is within. The divine source creator that is flowing through all of us is within us. And when you learn how to tap into that power, you will find that that's where your source is. That's where you get fed from. So I just think that I would like to kind of really drive that home as a message, because we are busy looking on the outside and there's no one that's coming to save us. It is us. It's like we are the ones that we are waiting for. And if you can soften in your heart and soften around those ideas and really pull from compassion, I think that's a big key to it. And like I said, along with all of the modalities that I offer, I think that it has been key for me and my healing. And I'm really overjoyed and honored to be able to show up in that way. So that's pretty much my story in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Angela.
You're welcome.
I just acknowledge you for taking.
Abram, is that you're breaking up? Is that you or is that me?
I think it's on Abram's end.
Yeah, Abram, your internet connection is dropping pretty bad, man.
See if I can fix this.
Yeah, while he's working on that,
go ahead,
Angela. Thank you so much for sharing, and just for being here and being you, and for being willing to come out here and present yourself in this way. I really, really appreciate it. I'd like you to get a little bit more specific though. There was several things I'd like to pull out, but one in particular is talking about that experience of finding giving back to be nourishing. Like, a is there an example that comes to mind of when you
Find,
recognize that person?
what did you say? Say that again.
Um, that experience of giving back, becoming nourishing and loving and enjoyable. Like, is there an example that really comes to mind that really demonstrated that to you? Like, what was one of the earliest ones where like, oh my God, this is amazing?
Well, honestly, when I started facilitating spaces and holding space for people, when I became a yin yoga teacher, teaching people to release through yin yoga poses. And for me, when I became a yoga teacher, it was so by chance. Like, I'd never in a million years thought I would be a yoga teacher. Like, it was the farthest thing from anything that I kind of like wanted to do. It just dropped in my lap one day, and it was kind of like, oh, I just had this. I had a roommate at the time who was a teacher, and she was going to hold a training, and I just kind of observed her preparing for it, and then all of a sudden I just got this message from spirit. It's like, oh, are you gonna actually start, are you going to be a yoga teacher? So that's kind of what opened the door for me. But when I actually started to teach and step into spaces and facilitate spaces where people were actually moving their body, working through their stuff, it was bigger than I realized. That it was like it was like yoga was the face that I was wearing. It was like I had this costume on, and it's like I'm coming in and I'm a yoga teacher. But actually, when I stepped into these containers or would create a container, I realized that it was deeper than actually yoga. And I had a gift for creating safe spaces and gentle places and allowing people to feel safe in my presence so that they could give themselves permission to let go and release. And it was the feedback that I started getting from my students and from my clients. So I started to really start to promote myself as a wellness practitioner, a holistic wellness practitioner, and a one-on-one mentor. And now that I have private clients and I'm working with people, it's their feedback that really gives me that, like, that confidence and the reassurance that, oh, you're on the right track, because of the testimonies that I've received from people that I worked with. And like I said, I have a variety of modalities that I work with, because it's different for each person. Every person's different, and I don't believe in like a one size fits all type thing. So, some people need really intensive breath work. Some people need a lot of intensive body movement. Some people just need to be heard. Some people just need to be seen and to be validated. And like I said, that safe space. And so I would say that's really the experiences that have called me to really stay the course and know that, hey, this is the right thing for you. And also how it feels in my body. So how I feel when I'm actually facilitating, it's kind of like I liken it to this, like, because I can kind of be very like introverted and shy. So when I am putting myself, uh, out there, um, it's like this other part of me comes alive. It's almost like, you hear performers, they're like, they have all this anxiety and they're all bunched up with nerves, but then they go out and they go on concert and they put on a concert and they're just like this completely different person and they have all this energy. And that's kind of how I feel when I am preparing spaces. I mean, I've always loved to nurture people through beautiful meals and just holding space and really, I just had a conversation with my son yesterday that really just made me cry my heart out as a parent, because, he shared something with me. He's recently um, been di- been diagnosed with autism and ADHD, and there's just like a lot of things that have been going on in his life. And obviously, I was a young parent, and I was not aware of any of these issues that were present with him. And now, as an adult, he has discovered these things, and I always knew that he struggled. And we had this relationship that it was like my desire was always like, I want to nurture you. I want to be a soft space for you. Like, I can't take away your pain. I can't live your life for you. I can't make your decisions and your choices, but I really can be like a soft space. And that's all I wanted. And yesterday he shared with me, before knowing all these things about himself, he was like, Mom, you've saved my life. Like, the reason why I'm living and breathing is because I've always had you as this soft space, and you've been so nurturing throughout my whole life that it's really helped me get through all of his dark nights of the soul. So, without getting too emotional, I feel like I've always naturally had that gift to nurture, and now I've just been able to find a way to give back to people and wrap it into a viable business. And it is the testimony and the response that I get from my clients that
Wow.
really overwhelms my heart and allows me to it allows me to really be confirmed in my heart that this is the right track. Stay the course, and use your natural gifts to create healing spaces for people so that they can find that healing within themselves.
Yeah, it's so powerful and how you share that. Can you guys hear me now, by the way?
Yes.
All
Yep.
right, perfect.
Perfect, Abram.
Perfect. Wow, great. So, well, first off, what I was saying earlier is I really just acknowledge you and the courage that for you to transmute and transcend all the trauma you faced when you were younger, and how you've turned that around into what you just described, this that nurturing, nourishing space for others. And you hit the nail on the head about purpose. And it's something I was thinking about as you were speaking, is like, from the perspective of the suffering self, or the small s self, or the ego, whatever word you want to use, the only purpose is no more pain. There's no greater purpose. It's, I don't care about anything else. I'm just suffering, and it's like a wounded animal. It's like, oh, get away from me. I'm in pain. You're not even capable, even if you try, you're not even capable of thinking of a greater purpose outside of surviving and numbing or getting rid of the pain. And that can manifest in many ways. And what you were describing for yourself is what I've seen for myself, but also in hearing others sharing, is our greater purpose is when we actually, in a way that we never even imagined we could do, is what we can impact, how we can impact others with the space that we hold. How we can, and it's just like, it's never something we imagined. I'll speak for myself, standing in that space of empowering and loving and inspiring and others and uplifting others. I could never have imagined being that or doing that for others from my shell, hiding in my hiding behind my masks, my identities of trying to be enough, to trying to prove to others I'm enough, trying to prove to myself. And that's one thing you were saying about how how your identity was your yoga teacher. And I could kind of relate. For a lot of my adult life, I've been a career musician, and a lot of that career for me was wearing a mask. Is like, I'm a musician, and where I had to prove myself to others, where I had to try, it was about my identity. And until I actually checked in and really had an experience of myself greater than this identity, it's kind of come full circle. It's like, not only music isn't my identity as a musician has very little to do with my gift. I have a gift of music, but I'm only really able to reach and to lift people up when I'm clear on who I am and why I am. And that's what I hear what you do. You've taken, like, you have a gift for yoga, but that was really just a tool and a resource for you to be you and for you to share the gift that you are in the space that you hold.
Yes, it was a vehicle. It was just a vehicle. And I think that the beauty in the dark nights of the soul, like I said, is realizing that that level and those depths of pain, when you no longer want to be on the planet, when you no longer want to live, when you feel like there's no space for you here, when you feel like you just you don't relate to anything around you, and you feel like an alien, you feel like you just got dropped off in the midst of this planet, and you're just like, why is everything hurt so much? Why is everything so painful? Why isn't it soft? Why isn't it compassionate? Why isn't it nurturing? Why isn't it balanced? Why isn't it fair? Like all of these things. And then take that and compound it with the lifestyle and the background of how we grew up and how we were raised and what was happening for us. For me, the realization of living through all that, it has been my greatest strength, because it's like now when people come to me or when I am presented with someone who is in the depths of that same pain that I can relate to, right? It's like I feel like that's what we truly draw our strength off of, because how can you actually fully empathize and be compassionate and have that level of understanding if you haven't actually been in those spaces and pulled yourself out of those spaces and learned that it's possible, you can do this. And this is how I was able to slowly walk myself into this current state that I'm in now. And I always remind people, like, it is a process, and it is through very little steps, very, baby steps. And each day that you wake up, it's a new day and it's a new opportunity for you to then choose, set those intentions, and start to do the self-care and the self-work and the inner work that it takes to unravel all of that. But for me, I'm just so grateful to be at a space where I can say, thank you, pain. Thank you, pain. Thank you for those lessons. Thank you for those dark spaces. Thank you for that, because it is why I am who I am today. And I would not change a thing. I would not go back and say, I wish that it wasn't that way, or I wish I wouldn't have experienced that, because it does give me the depths of the compassion that I have in my heart, and it also gives me a level of understanding and understanding to a degree that I feel like you could never have without the life experience. It's where the wisdom is flowing through me, as that's how I channel through all of the wisdom and all of the things that come to me. My creativity, my wisdom, my knowledge, all of it is wrapped up into one thing, but it was sourced through the life experiences that I lived through.
Yeah, I totally feel that. There's something I think we talked about this before, actually, you and I. Life isn't happening to me; it's happening for me.
Mm. Exactly. Exactly.
And yeah, like that distinction, that brings it all back to choice. Like the power of that to me is that when I look at life as happening for me, then I am choosing to find the opportunities in the quote unquote pain. And when I find the opportunities in the pain, when I find the lessons, when I find the growth, when I find the new experiences to teach and share and to grow into, because of the experiences that I've had, because of the pain, because of the trauma, because of the beatings, because of whatever, then all of a sudden, all of that past experience gets transformed. And it's like, oh, like you were saying, like, oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's a beautiful space to be in. It really is a beautiful space to be in. And there's another thing that I would like to touch on, is because there's this, it's like, just because you're like, for me, I feel like I'm in a really good space in my life. I'm living a very harmonious life. I'm really balanced in my life, and I'm feeling great in my body, my mind, my soul. It feels cohesive for the first time, in all my years. And the thing about it now is that it doesn't exempt us from having painful experiences. It doesn't exempt, you can be in the greatest spaces. It doesn't exempt you from having things and hardship and pain and trials that are in your life. The difference is that you have the muscle and the strength. You have this wherewithal about yourself now, whereas when you see a painful, and I'm only speaking for myself, but I think this is rings true for a lot of people. When something is coming into your life as a painful experience, you are able to look at it, like you said, you're looking for the lesson in it automatically. You're saying, what are you here to teach me? Because in the past, you've taught me great things. So it doesn't mean it's not going to hurt. Doesn't mean that there's not going to be pain. But the way that you handle it is completely different. And you don't stay marred into it. You take the experience, you feel through it, you allow yourself to feel the pain. You're not like, I think once you've faced your fears, you've faced the pain, you're not afraid anymore. You're like, okay, yeah, that's not going to be comfortable, and oof, it doesn't really hurt. I mean, it doesn't really feel good, but I also know that there's some sort of jewel, there's some sort of lesson in it, and that this isn't permanent. It's going to pass. And when it does pass and I'm able to transmute through it, then I'm going to see the gifts in it. So it's kind of like you have created, you've walked through this cycle enough to have, you've created this confidence that when a painful situation does arise, that you'll have the wherewithal, and you'll have the stamina, and you'll have the inner strength to be able to handle it with grace and ease. But it doesn't mean that you're not going to have these hardships, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to feel these painful things. It just means that, hey, I'm not going to stay stuck here anymore, and I know that there's something great for me, because I believe that things are working for my good. And I feel like when I approach life like that, that's how it's actually shown up for me.
It's so profound, and I mean, there's so many things you said that it's full circle. It's almost like a spiritual muscle. But
Yep.
one of the most profound things you said is "thank you, pain." And I think from the perspective of someone in pain, still, that's like the scariest, craziest thing you could think. But it's like it is a fruit of of transformation to be able to say, to look at that. It comes from that same place of life happening to you versus happening for you or through you. When we actually come from a space of, you know pain is a teacher. Pain is a teacher as much as fear is a teacher. It allows us to walk into places when life, sometimes we can have plans and no pain's going to happen, and other times it'll catch us off guard. You're walking down the street and a baseball hits you in the face. You don't know, you never know what will happen and how pain will manifest. But it's not if it happens, it's when it does. How will I respond? Will I just fall into autopilot of my emotions and my thoughts, and like, I'm so angry and I'm so pissed and I'm gonna do this? Like, are we gonna act out of that pain, or are we gonna transmute it and transcend it? And that's something, for me, very personally, like, in music, why I love blues, just as a
Mm,
spiritual practice. It is
mm,
taking the most, hurtful, situations in life. My baby left me and my boss fired me, XYZ of all the things that happen. But it's making it something beautiful out of that. And I think
mm,
as human, and I think it's not unique to music, but I think as humans, our beauty shines when under pressure. We are diamonds. Under pressure is when our beauty can shine, and that's when the choice is most important. It's when we can actually have the courage to say thank you, pain,
yep.
even when it still hurts.
Yeah, exactly. And being a human having a spiritual experience, you're going to feel the spectrum of emotions, and it is okay. It's okay to feel what you need to feel. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel all these shadowy things that we judge and that we deem as ways. Like, I have a girlfriend that she always apologizes when she cries. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get upset, or I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cry. And I always tell her, it's a beautiful thing. It's good. It's okay. Cry, cleanse, let it out. Like, it's your body's way of literally clearing the energy, of cleansing it out of you. And I think we are so afraid to feel.
Mhm.
So we are so afraid to feel things. We're so afraid to feel. I mean, it's not natural to be in an up state, a vibrational, like, crazy, up here all the time. It's not balanced. We're gonna have the pendulum swing, and it's from here and it swings and it goes here. So you have that downward motion, and you're gonna come to where the pendulum is down here, and then you're gonna have that up swing. And I think when people realize they can get used to life doing this, that you can allow that flow. So you can recognize when there's that down swing happening and not judge it, because you're just like, oh, that's how it is. Like, life is changing right now. I'm on the downswing, but now I'm gonna go on the upswing. And then, like, it's almost like getting on a ride, and you're just used to that motion in life, and you're not sitting there judging it and afraid and trying to stop the ride from going downward. It's like, oh no, I'm going to ride this out. Like, let's just ride it out. And I think it's important for us to start to really feel through the discomfort and start to not judge it, but realize that it's a part of your human experience. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong in those spaces. I see so many of my clients judging, feeling a certain way about certain things, which can keep us stuck, because, we're just like, oh, I'm not, you hear people say it all the time. Well, I'm just not feeling that good today. It's like, that's okay. We're not always going to feel good. We have changes in our mood. We have changes in our body. We have changes in our hormone levels. We have changes that take place. And if we can love ourselves through it and be like, okay, hey, I need a little extra rest today. Today is not a people day. Today is not a day for me to go out and thrust myself into the world and maybe take the center stage and I need to help myself today. Today needs me. And I think it's being able to discern and ride with those emotional states that we deem and judge as so-called negative, but they're actually just natural things that take place, just very natural things.
Right. With your friend speaking about, feeling sorry or apologizing for having emotions. It's like all there is you have an abundance of emotions. There's nothing to
There's
apologize for.
nothing.
And having, something that helps me and, has helped others that I've worked with, or, it's okay to have emotions. There's nothing. It's like, that's the most human thing you could, like, the worst thing you could do is ignore it and suppress those emotions. And I don't want to be sad now, so I'm going to pretend I'm not. And, like, that's the worst thing you could do. The most powerful thing you could do is just notice, see the emotions, and actually see how they're separate from you.
Yeah.
How you're just, there are emotions in my body right now. Well, there's anger, there's resentment, there's fear, there's jealousy. It's like, oh, in that moment I'm noticing it. It's not me. It's just, it's in me. And I don't have to let it take over my, what I do right now.
Exactly. There is one thing I want to share, an exercise that's really helped me tremendously on my journey
Please.
before we wrap up today. So there is it's called, a lot of people might know of it. It's the internal family systems. And I've kind of I've taken I've taken that practice and kind of made it my own. And this is based off of us talking about different emotions and different things that arise within us. So what I have been able to do is compartmentalize the different aspects of myself. So I have what I would say, the ego or the shadow side, right? And I don't even really like to label it as the ego or the shadow, because I feel like the ego gets a bad rap. I feel like the shadow gets a bad rap. It's like it just wants to be loved and nurtured too. It's like, hey, I'm an important part. I'm an important part of this process too. Like I'm the one that keeps you safe, and I'm the one that protects you, and I'm the one that doesn't let that person bully you. And that part of yourself is very active. So that part of myself I call Angelique. So I have the inner child, and I call her Angie because I was referred to being Angie as a child. People didn't call me Angela, they called me Angie. So my inner child is Angie, and she's the tender, she's the sweet, she's the very, sensitive girl, and she's just pure. She's really pure. And then there is the higher aspect of myself, and that's Angel. And then there is the predominantly conscious part of myself, and that's Angela. That's me. And so, what's helped me is when I have different emotions arise within myself, I can automatically recognize where those feelings are coming from. So, when my so called ego flares up, I can tell with inside myself, it's like, oh, that's my teenager. She's like really riled up right now. She feels left out and she's really pissed off about it. Or she didn't get chosen for this. So she's kind of like inside, like, oh, how dare, it's like I can tell that dialogue is taking place and from what space it's taking place from. And then there's my inner child who is super sensitive, and I know based off of having conversations with my inner child and developing healthy dialogues and actually identifying with those parts of myself, building relationships, like literally building relationships with all of those aspects of myself that a lot of people don't. They have just forgotten themselves. They just have abandoned themselves completely, not realizing that your inner child is still very much alive and well with you every day, as is your ego, as is all the other aspects of yourself. We don't want to kill the ego. We don't want to banish their ego. We don't want to get rid of that. We want to be able to live in harmony with all of these different aspects. And I believe it comes from developing a relationship and a dialogue with those aspects of yourself. And that's whenever you will be able to start to identify when they need your attention. Because basically, we have thoughts and we have these reactions to things based off of our programming and our subconscious program, and also the different aspects of ourselves that are activated and want our attention. And the more that we abandon ourselves, the more that we don't have those relationships, the louder those parts of ourselves become. So if your inner child isn't being able to express himself through creativity, through joy, through laughter, through being seen, through being validated, because there's nothing wrong with wanting to be seen, wanting to be validated, like we all do as humans, right? And those parts of ourselves, like the inner child, if it is not getting recognized, it will start to throw a tantrum. It will start to react and start to get activated. And then it's like, before we know it, we're caught up in all these different emotions, not realizing, hey, that part of myself needs me right now. The main consciousness, which is Angela. And then I can look at those parts of myself and say, oh, okay, I see you're feeling that way. It's okay. It's okay for you to be upset about that. I get why you're upset. I get why that triggers you. I understand that because you went through A, B, C, D, and that made you feel that way. But here I want to reassure you that the adult in me that's taking care of all of us, I see you, I hear you, you're allowed to feel that way, and I love you through it. Like, I'm loving you and I'm nurturing you. I'm not going to judge you for feeling the way that you're feeling. I just want you to reassure you that I'm actually here for you, and that I'm doing the inner work, and I'm taking care of us. I'm taking care of the vessel, I'm taking care of the spirit, and I'm taking care of the essence behind all of those things. So that was something I really want to leave the audience with today. It's a great practice if you can really start to identify these different aspects of yourself, develop a loving relationship with them, a caring relationship, a nurturing relationship, and start to feel through your feelings. Feel it. It's okay to feel it, and reassuring yourself that it's all going to be okay, you know? So that's been a really helpful practice to me. I mean, a very helpful practice, because immediately, instead of me having my reactions or feelings run away with me, I can have a sit down talk with myself. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
let's sit down and talk about this. Like, where are you at? You know what I mean? And then it's
It's
not
so beautiful
about,
said.
I don't need other people to change. I don't need other people to do anything, because once I realize what's happening internally for me, I am the one. That's why I say the power comes from within. It's not you needing the world to change around you, or people to do this or do that, or I need this person to have a better attitude, or I need this person not to leave me out. It's like, no, you're getting messages all day long from your inner parts, your inner self, saying, this is what I actually need. And it's you that's going to show up for yourself, not other people. So
Absolutely.
that's something that I really wanted to like put out there.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. That's so beautifully said.
Absolutely.
It's I love it. Like, it's so funny because when I first was like entertaining any type of spirituality, I remember like reading Eckhart Tolle for the first time and hearing about the ego and the pain body. And for a while, you know, in my mind, it was ego equals bad, and it
Yeah.
was like, and I would like shame, ego, shame, and then like there's the ego, his like hiss at the ego, and it was like never a nurturing thing. And I love how you said it's just it's really loving and nurturing, you know, those parts of ourselves, which, you know, it's the same as the emotions we were speaking earlier. The more we try to squish them down and to, you know, not hold space for them to be and acknowledge them, you know, we're just going to exacerbate a negative energy if we don't actually give space for them to feel and to be, and for us to be holding that space, you know, to our inner child, to our inner parts.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And like, I can't help but laugh because, like, as you're describing this, like, one of my favorite places to start with people in this kind of work is if I describe that exercise or something like that. Inevitably, there's this voice that comes up and goes, "That's stupid. I don't want to do that." And so the very first question I'll usually ask is like, which part is saying that's stupid? Like, who is that? Let's identify that one first, and
Yeah.
then we'll work from there.
Yeah. I love it.
I, I feel like one of the most powerful tools is humor, and you know,
Yeah.
especially dealing with like a cranky teenager ego or little kid ego, and it's just like every time, like I mean, there's so many times where I just like when I'm working with someone else, or I feel it in myself, and I'll just just do something really silly or to like take it to 1,000%. You know, like how dare you? I'm so upset right now, and like just like kind of create a character. It's like I can't help but laugh, and it almost disarms any negative energy just in that moment. And I feel humor is one of the most powerful things in that regard.
Yeah.
There was a phrase you used earlier. We are the ones that we've been waiting for.
Mm.
Did I read you that poem? Did like where did you get that?
I mean, it's been a common saying for a while. It's like a common quote that's been out there in the field for a while, and it's one of those things that it's when I heard it myself, I don't know specifically where the source came from or who originally said it or thought of it, but when I heard it, it was super powerful, and I thought to myself, that's the truth, because I think growing up, we're waiting for a savior, we're waiting for a thing, a person, a job, a place, a relationship, or whatever to come and shift us, to change us, to do this for us, to do that for us. But the most empowering thing is to realize is that it's you. It's you. It's you that you're waiting on. It's not anything else. It's you. And to me, once you can really click that and it really lands for you, it's a game changer. It is a game changer because you are no longer waiting for some invisible force to come in and do the work. You're like, hey, it's me. I have the power to do that. I actually have that within me. Now it might take you a while to get to those places, but it doesn't mean that it's not there. Just because it takes the time and the process and the work and things to get there and the steps, it doesn't mean that you can't access it. And it's like a muscle. The more you exercise it and the stronger you get, the quicker you can access those places to you. And that's why the meditation and the mindfulness and the different modalities that we practice to get to these spaces is so important, that you incorporate something like that in your life daily so that you exercise that muscle of realizing your own inner strength, your own inner power, and your own inner wisdom. And shadow work is so important because it's the shadow that we're afraid of. It's the ego that we're running from. It's that part of ourselves that we don't want to accept and that we deem as not suitable for the world to see. We don't want people to know these things and have these perceptions of us, when it's like, no, for me, I'm befriending that part of myself. It's like, no, it's me and you. We're together. You are a part of me. I love you unconditionally. I am not judging you. I am here, ride or die with you. And we're not trying to I'm not trying. Once I had that conversation with myself, it was like, listen, I'm not trying to get rid of you. I just want you to work with me in harmony. I'm not trying to kill you. So you can calm down. Like, that's the thing. It's like think about a part of yourself that is you're constantly warring with, of like, no, shut up, sit down, get away, go away, you're no good, you're no good. I mean, think about how painful that is. Like, how painful would that be? No matter if you're deeming it or judging it to be this bad thing, how painful that part of yourself must feel. It's like, well, why are all the so-called shiny parts good for you? Why is it your inner child? She gets to have her say, but I'm the bad thing. I'm the thing that you're trying to kill. It's still you. It's still a part of us. And the more that we can find that whole self, that holistic approach to our life, like, that is what to me is healing. It's like, you're not trying to banish these parts of yourself. You're trying to work with those parts of yourself and harmonize them into a
And learn.
place of balance with you, into a place of balance. And that's when you're going to start to see them working for you and not warring with you and struggling with you internally. It's kind of like, no, I have my space and I am being accepted and loved, because I do really firmly think that all the places that are within us that we don't identify with or that we're trying to get rid of just become loud, and it becomes a source of pain for us, instead of being like, okay, no, I'm going to work with you and we're going to love our way through this thing. We're going to address it with compassion.
And that's so empowering as well. Like this, so we are the ones we've been waiting on. Like this is at the core of everything I feel that we're missing right now as a society, because it points to the fact that we do have agency.
Absolutely.
Growing up like, I was taught that, like, I can't heal myself. If I'm sick, I have to go to a doctor. If I'm hurt, I have to go to a counselor or go talk to my parents, or like that's what I was taught growing up. And that's been taking on subconsciously, and it doesn't feel true to me. In fact, it feels like a recipe for continued pain, to constantly be looking outside myself.
Yep.
And so, like, that phrase, like, I'd love to share with you where I first heard that. And I
Yeah,
don't know if this is
absolutely.
where it, oh man, like, I don't know if this is where it first came from, but this is where I first heard it. And it rocks my world every single time I read it. Um, this is from the elders of the Hopi Nation.
Mm,
To my fellow swimmers, here is a river now flowing very fast. It is so great that there are those who will be afraid, who will try to hold on to the shore. They are being torn apart and will suffer greatly. Know that the river has its destination. The elders say we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, and keep our heads above water. And I say, see who is there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment we do, our spiritual growth and journey come to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and vocabulary. All that we do now must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration, for we are the ones we have been waiting for.
mm,
Hmm,
mm. That is so powerful.
beautiful. I love that. I well, I want to let you guys continue. I actually have to jump off now. But I wanted to just thank you, Angela, just from the bottom of my heart. You're amazing. I'm so inspired by you, what you're up
Thank you.
to, who you're being in the world, and
Thank you.
it's just I want you to come back and share with us some more. I'm really, yeah,
Anytime. Anytime. I'm so grateful that you invited me on your platform and just to have a place to speak. I've actually never been on a podcast before. I want to start my own
mhm.
podcast. I've had my own podcast in the works, and just kind of trying to start to put myself out there more and more, and just sharing the magic. So thank you.
Well, thank you for
Oh,
sharing your magic with us. Matthew, if you don't mind, would you mind closing us off? I might have to help a friend out here who's dealing with an emergency, so I have to jump off. But if you can continue and land the ship. Um, but thank you again, Angela. Such a
Thank you,
pleasure having
Abram.
you.
Well
Oh,
wishes on
thank
your
you.
journey. Thank you.
Thank you. You as well.
thank you. See you around. So before we close
You
out,
too.
is there any last thing you'd like to share? Any words of wisdom? Anything that's really present for you that just feels like it needs to be spoken before we sign off?
Let's me check in with my spirit here. I'm getting it is done. It is done. It is enough. It has been we are complete for today.
Aho. In that case, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for being with us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you
We
so
will
much,
talk again.
Matthew.
Absolutely. And I'll be in touch. I've got some things I want to share with you later on. So
Okay,
enjoy
perfect.
the rest of your day.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If any, can I talk about the nurturing well really quick? If
Oh,
anyone
yeah,
wants to reach
please.
out,
Please go for it. Is there a website that I can put up?
yes. Yep. It's the nurturingwell.com. And you can reach me there through email inquiries. I do give consultations to see if we're a fit to work with each other. And I would be happy for any of your listeners that want to further their journey or just want to start to cultivate a practice of some of the modalities that I teach. There's a wealth of things that I offer, and so yeah, thenurturingwell.com, and I'm on Instagram, and I'm also about to be on Facebook. I haven't been very active on Facebook. I kind of took myself off Facebook years ago. It was kind of feeling like a weird space. It was just like a little tumultuous environment. But for business purposes, I am going to start to create a Nurturing Well page on there, and I am on TikTok.
Awesome sauce. And they can find all those links on your website.
Yes, the Nurturing Well. Yep.
Beautiful. And I've got it spelled right down there. Yes.
Yes, thenurturingwell.com. Perfect. Thank you
Okay.
so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Angela, it's been a pleasure.
All right.
Until next time.
Aloha,
Aloha.
Matthew.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a wonderful experience as always. if you would like to join us on the stage, you're always more than welcome. You can come join us at onedaymvmt.org/share my gift, where you'll get the sign up page. Just it kind of gives you a rundown of how we run the show and how to get in touch with us. And just remember, we're out here. Our mission in this world is bringing you and me and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. And this is just one small part. Like what we do here on the podcast is just one small part of our greater vision, which is humanity rising in a connected world, with each person's unique contributions being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. And I say that at a time when the world is changing so fast, and every day I wake up and read something that I could not have imagined being possible the day before. So this is just rolling, and we're all about bringing people who are creating wonderful, positive, beautiful change in the world together to co-create and create something even more unimaginable. Again, thank you all. It's been a wonderful ride, and I hope you have a lovely rest of the day. Until next time, be well and aloha.